So you guys don't have anything to offer. I'm going to go right into our heroes and villains.
Okay.
So this week's heroes and villains. I said villains.
They're
Wale,
kind of showing.
you're tuning out now. Whenever we start heroes, have you noticed he tunes out when we start heroes and villains? Asshole. This nigga will just get on his phone. Anyways, no,
Maybe
but I'm going to
that's
talk
telling you
this shit.
something.
Okay, I'm listening.
Is that maybe that's telling you something, Corey? Get interesting.
So,
get interesting topics and interesting people.
what do you mean interesting? We've addressed some pretty serious things here today, don't you think?
No, I'm talking about your heroes and villains.
Oh no,
Get
yes,
more
no,
interesting people.
So you don't think my people are
Well,
interesting?
the
I think
dude,
you
what was that
drag
guy's
it
name?
on a lot.
No, but I feel like
I think
want
you need to-
I'm learning about this, and as I'm learning, I want to
On the
share.
audience
what
Give
I'm
level.
us,
learning.
like,
For me, it's about
give us the
education. It's
key.
about learning about our heroes. It's about learning about
My
our
favorite
history.
so far is still the prime minister and the crook dude. What's his
The
name?
crook,
again?
Babani Sissoko.
Yep, him. That was my favorite. And Our Lady.
Look, it might be boring, but this is something that I've committed
The
to
educational hour. Do-no-no-no-no.
Man, Burner Boy was in town yesterday. Man.
doing. Burna
Yeah.
in Maryland.
Yeah,
You should have invited him here now. We could
Yeah,
have
why
interviewed
didn't
him.
you?
So I text him, say Burner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know him now, right?
Okay, yeah,
And-
yeah. All of them, I know all the celebrities.
No, seriously though, we're trying to get
You're a plug
look, we're
now,
trying to
don't
get
you
celebrity
know?
interviews.
Right, so
for all.
Wale, do your magic. Yeah, I'm sure your phone has all the celebrity numbers in
course, all
it.
of
Trying to
So
do it
call
all.
one
Yeah,
of us for
man,
that. I mean,
all
call
of
one of
them.
them for
All right.
us.
So this episode's heroes and villains profile is on one of my heroes, the former president of Burkina Faso. He goes by the name of Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara. He hails from, obviously, Burkina Faso. He was born in 1949, 21st of December, in Yako, French Upper Volta. This was back when they used to call themselves Upper Volta.
I
Of course,
remember
this is a
that.
region that was colonized by the French, right? And he started out. Now I'm gonna start with. He started out the third of 10 children.
wow.
He's a Mosi Fulani heritage.
Oh, wow.
Like I said, he was born in Yoko.
Yeah, he looks kind of Fulani too. But
Yeah, he has that. Apparently, there's like 50% of them are Mosi, and there's a huge Fulani faction in Burkina Faso. But back then, it was called Upper Volta,
Yeah, I remember.
landlocked country with about 20 million people. About 50% Mosi, French speaking, of course. Sankara came into this world 1949. He grew up in Yako. He was a church boy. There were very, very strong Roman Catholics in his house. He was a little upper class, he was a little kind of privileged. But his parents wanted him to get into the missionary. They wanted him to be like a pastor or whatever. But he opted to go into the military. Now, this was around the time Burkina Faso had gone through multiple wars. They had gone through multiple coups. You know how all these African countries are
yep.
now. But he came up in the military. He started out by joining the military academy, and that was in Burkina Faso. And then at some point he met this guy, one of his boys, Blaise Compaore. And remember that name because he's a very, very central part of this guy's story. They were very close, very, very close. They were best of friends. Whenever they would go back home for holidays from their military academy, they would go back home. Blaise would come stay with them. Blaise lived with
So it
them.
was like a
They were like
child,
brothers.
second child,
They were
okay.
brothers, man. They were brothers. But you need to listen to this story, man, because they came up together in the academy. There was a time during, like, he was in high school at this point, military academy. He got exposed to ideas like Marxism. He heard about Che Guevara's revolution, what they did in Cuba. He learned about imperialism, neocolonialism, socialism, communism. So he was influenced by these people through his professor at the time. He goes by the name of Adam Torre. Back then he would call all these guys, him, Compaore, his boys, and he would share these ideas. So we started learning about this stuff. eventually he had to go into the University Military Academy. So he ended up moving to Madagascar for a while. Him and his boy Compaore, they came together.
Okay.
And they were doing their thing, man. They of course they in addition to learn about military stuff, they learned about stuff like agriculture, how all these third world countries emerged out of their third world country status. So he learned about all those things. But while he was there, he eventually got called back to Burkina Faso. He got back, and basically he entered into tour duty or whatever. There was a war with Chad at the time. And he fought the war. He was very, very brave in the war. He came back like a hero. But then he realized that the war was. They asked him about it. He said he felt it was pointless. It was unjust and it was pointless.
Like
And
most
he
wars
started realizing that the powers that be were corrupt, and he felt like from all the things he had learned from all these places that he went to, he felt like something better could be done. So at one point, he, Compaore, and a bunch of some of his military cadet boys, they formed this group. They call themselves the ROC Boys.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
In
original ROC Boys.
Yeah, in fact, that's the diamond sign
Right?
that Jay-Z does.
That's where it's from?
That's where they got that.
Oh,
stuff
are you lying? You're such an idiot.
from. Yo, yet you believe me.
You're an idiot.
You're about to go tell someone that story tomorrow.
No. So yeah, they had they called themselves ROC. Actually, it was Regroupement des Officiers Communistes.
Huh?
It's a French. It means communist officers group. So they, of course, they were very, very, very influenced by this communist stuff. Long story short, they came back. He got put into government. He was made Minister of Information at one point. And at one point, he actually resigned. He was like, "Nah, I ain't doing this shit." Him and his ROC Boys were still rolling together. Him, Compaore. So they decided, you know what? We need to do something about this government. They came together. Him, Compaore, this guy called Jean Baptiste. I don't know if I pronounced that well, but
Yeah, you did.
and it was like one other guy. And basically, they came together and they decided that they were going to overthrow the government at the time. This was in 80. Hold on, let me look at my notes here. I want to make sure I get this right, because you can't mess up people's history like this. This was in
83.
83. Yeah. No, sorry. Actually, this was in 82. He
Okay.
resigned in 82, and then in late 82, he joined the coup.
Oh.
Yeah. In January, he and his boys, they made him prime minister. This was a coup that Jean Baptiste actually implemented. They made him prime minister. And then what happened was the French saw that, man, there's some shit going on out
They're
here.
trying to make.
Yeah, and they saw that this guy, they didn't really
power
know about
wasn't
this,
as- right.
about this new guy, this kid they call Thomas Sankara. So they had a French envoy come. It was the French president's son, an envoy. They came, they landed in Ouagadougou. That's the capital of Burkina Faso. For those who don't know, it's a very, very complicated spelling, man. It's like O-U-G, but yeah, look it up, Ouagadougou. And they came and they decided, yeah, you guys are playing around.
Enough already.
So they arrested Jean Baptiste. They had that guy. They had Thomas Sankara step down. They didn't arrest him. They just let him go, step down. So he was dismissed after that visit. And then in late August, this was May 1983. Late August of 1983, Blaise planned another coup. And this time they came back stronger. They came back ready. They came back into office. They made him the president. And things, I'm telling you, things took a turn. He came with these really, really bold ideas. Now I'm going to list some of the things that he started out doing. One second here. Some of the things that he did was, they had like a food crisis at the time. He came, he doubled the food production. So they went from having to borrow money to get their food for their source of income to actually being self-sufficient. But they even went even further.
Good
They
for
had a
him.
food surplus. Not only that, he stripped a lot of their tribal chiefs of their powers. They used to abuse their citizens. Like they used to have them do like they called them like it was like slavery almost. He broke all that stuff apart. So basically, he took a lot of the lands that they had taken over and he redistributed it among the peasants. It was like a Robin Hood.
Oh, so he stopped the feudal system. Okay,
Yeah, he stopped the feudal system. He at one point there was in 1 week he immunized 2.5 million kids.
Wow.
And
really?
Yeah.
Good for
he
him,
actually got recognition from WHO. Like this was a big deal.
So he
like
was trying to make moves.
Like he was making moves.
Good.
His idea was really his whole idea was that we shouldn't be dependent on the IMF, the World Bank, and our French
colonialists.
Our French colonizers. And basically, his idea was that we want to be self-sufficient enough so that we don't have to take these loans, these exorbitant loans,
which they're
crazy,
still giving. Our French are still giving some other countries.
So it was really just about being self-reliant,
Good.
and that's why
Africa needs that.
Like that's what we've needed all this while. He was way ahead of his time. Yes, his idea was a little bit communist in nature, but it was at the time that was really what was needed.
Right.
And the people loved him, the poor loved him. He was actually his government was the first government to publicly recognize the AIDS epidemic as a major threat to Africa.
Wow.
Like this was back in the 80s. Like
right.
they knew that this stuff was coming. He within 4 years, Burkina Faso reached food self-sufficiency and even food surplus. Production of wheat, cotton more than doubled. He created a higher standard of living for the people. He did have some rough patches though, one of like his biggest things was the education system. So at one point the teachers decided that they were going to strike, and they all just
went on
took strike at the same time. It was a huge deal. He wasn't ready to pay these people. So he decided, you know what, we're just gonna, anyone that has a college degree, just come
and teach the kids.
No, listen, he said it was a 10-day training course to teach the kids. Yeah,
Are you serious?
It was disastrous. It was because he didn't want to give into the pressures of.
Right.
So those are like one of the first.
But that's not that bad.
It wasn't that bad, but it was one of the first signs of like struggling with his presidency. But he did a lot of other really, really great things. Part of the things that he did here was he set up people's revolutionary tribunals where people would come and prosecute people that have been accused of corruption. It wasn't anything. It wasn't like any bloodshed or anything. It was people that like for corruption, tax evasion, or counter-revolutionary activity. So sentences for former government officials were light and usually often suspended. It wasn't like a
But at least they were held accountable.
They were being held accountable. The tribunals have been alleged to have been only show trials, actually held very openly with oversight from the public. So these ideas were things that he was trying to bring into the community.
That's actually a good idea.
Large-scale housing and infrastructure projects were undertaken. Over 700 miles of rail was laid by Burkinabe people to facilitate manganese extraction in the Battle of the Rails without any foreign aid or outside money.
Wow.
These programs were an attempt to prove that African countries could be prosperous without foreign help or aid. These revolutionary developments and national economic programs shook the foundations of the traditional economic development models imposed on Africa at that time. He also helped launch programs like to combat the country's 90% illiteracy rate. In terms of women's right, what did he do? He banned FGM.
What? Okay.
He banned forced
He's my
marriages.
new
Listen,
hero.
like the list is long. He banned forced marriages. He banned polygamy too. He appointed women to high government positions. He encouraged them to leave their homes and go to school and work.
Good
so
for
back then they had
him.
like more, those
Yeah,
societies where
women
stay home. Nah,
educated.
he was like, nah. He had girls come and do like cadet. Like he really empowered the people. He had this agenda to plant over 10,000 trees to halt growing desertification.
Wow.
Remember, we were talking about desertification in Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, it is.
Like this guy was ahead of his time. This was in the 80s, by the way. Prosecuted corrupt officials. He set up Cuban-style tribunals. I already mentioned that earlier.
Kind of like a Che Guevara kind of person.
Yeah, he loved Che Guevara, and people.
So that's probably his
people.
inspiration,
Yeah,
right?
people regard him as the African Che Guevara.
Oh, okay.
It was all about African self-reliance and not taking aid from France, IMF, World Bank. Remained popular among the poor, but growing resentment in the middle class and tribal leaders whom he had stripped of power.
So let me guess.
Yeah.
I feel like I can guess
killed
what's
him?
coming.
Oh, yo,
right,
you know what's
exactly.
you know where this is going.
Killed him.
You know where
Let
this
me
is
guess.
going.
They didn't like and shot him.
Yeah. So basically at one point there was starting to be growing resentment. I remember his boy, Blaise Compaore.
Compaore. Oh no.
So this guy, basically he was by his side, and they started telling
It's
him
like
that,
a
look,
Julius Caesar kind
my
of
guy, this Blaise guy, man. I think they're planning a coup. They'd had like 3 coups up until this point. They told Sankara, I think this guy is planning a coup, man. Tom, you know what I'm saying? And basically, he was like, nope. That even if they even if they kill me, he was like, my ideas will never die off.
What? True.
You know what I'm saying? And he was like, he's never gonna move against his guy. He was like, look, my guy is never gonna come against me. He ignored the warnings.
Oh no.
This was 4 years into his presidency, in 1987. 1987, August. No. Hold on a second. Let me make sure I get his death date right. 1987, 15th of October. He was 37 years old.
Oh damn. He was young.
Yeah, he was young. He took office at 33.
So he was basically Julius Caesar.
And
kind of.
no one knew what happened. We just heard that. They just heard that this guy died, and Blaise emerged as the new president.
So that's the Brutus of this story.
Oh, you don't understand. I was watching some of the
Damn.
videos of some of the people that were on the Thomas Sankara side. Those guys were hurt, man.
Aw.
They didn't let the people mourn. They didn't let the people go to his gravesite.
Are you serious?
Yeah, no one even knew what happened for like a few months.
Oh wow.
They just said that he was missing. He was gone.
He was just
And then at some point they
Wow.
came out, and Blaise Compaore, snitch ass mofo, he came out and he said he tried to kill him. That he learned that Thomas Sankara was trying to
kill him.
and
So he retaliated. So
there was an
Judas.
interview where they were actually talking about, where he was talking about it, and you could just tell this nigga was lying. He was lying ass nigga. He was talking about, yeah, you know, he was my friend, and you know, when I heard he tried to kill me, you know, I had to do what I had to do. Obviously, this guy had been working with the French. Apparently, they've been going
Of
very
course,
wary
and that's
of
the
Thomas
thing.
Sankara.
Usually
They
the
didn't like
big
the fact that
power
this guy was
was
trying
trying to make
to
the
come up
country
under
self-sufficient.
IMF and World Bank, man. They were like, well, who's this nigga?
Colonizers. Mm-hmm.
And obviously, he went to them, and you know, all of a sudden we heard that he's dead.
Judas.
They didn't let him mourn. They didn't let people visit his gravesite. There was 24/7 security around his gravesite. They didn't let people try to immortalize him. They weren't allowed to mourn, and it became a very hostile environment again.
Wow.
People were sad, man, and
Damn.
they never got to mourn. So this dude, right, this Blaise dude, right, he stays in office. 1987,
Of course.
1991, he runs for election. Of course, he wins. He goes to Congress. He changes the constitution, and he makes it possible for people to serve at least 4 terms.
Dictator.
4 terms. This guy was there from 91 up until
Damn.
2014 or
Wait, what?
Yo, I ain't done yet. This guy, of course, his people never really got to live free after that.
Aww.
2014, right? He was like, he had already served 4 terms at that point, and he had to go because the maximum was 4 terms. He tried to change the constitution again.
Oh.
He tried to change it again.
To add more.
He said to build to serve a 5th term.
Shit.
So he wanted to like a dictator.
Yeah, he's a dictator. That's what that is. He's a dictator.
Of course, that was when people were like, nah.
Okay,
you
nigga.
gotta go.
That don't do.
You gotta go. You gotta get the fuck out of here. So that was what happened, and they pretty much got him the fuck out of there. They had riots. They burnt down.
So they finally woke up.
The state cap. They woke up. They woke up. They burned down the state capital. He was on the run for a while. Like they were at him, yo. They were like, "What? Again?" Well, like
I hope he's still on the run.
They said people that were 27 years old at that point had never seen any other leader in their lifetime.
They were ready for that.
Wow.
I'm like, what? get out of here. So that was what happened. They chased him the heck out of there. I think he's in jail right now. They're holding him for
Corruption.
crimes he may have committed.
Like what?
Now people are starting to ask what exactly happened.
So
we know that it was 3 of them that were in the room. It was Thomas Sankara and 2 of his guys, and they were talking. They were having a meeting, and they said someone came in the room, shut up the place. One of them pretended to have died. They said Thomas Sankara had his hand up the whole time.
And
There was
still
no
got
resisting,
shot.
nothing.
And they shot him.
They killed him. They for the longest time they didn't let his family know where he was. You know, they said
sounding like French had something to do with this.
But you know the funny
France,
but you know the saddest part about this story, right? So they asked Thomas Sankara's dad, because the guy lived to he had the parents lived to very long.
Right, because
before
only
they died.
37.
Before they died, they asked him, like, he was like, "Look, what's up with Blaise? Tell Blaise to come visit me." That was his. He was like, "Look, I just want Blaise to. I want to see him before I die. Basically, I want to see him.
He's like my son,
and I just want to
basically.
ask him,
Why?
you know, why he killed his brother, and I want him to stay there so that I can just forgive him and just move on with it." That was really all. And just tell him that you shouldn't have done that to your brother, because the way he saw him like his son.
Wow.
Like they were that close.
Wow.
Um,
That's that feels Judas into modern day.
He never
Modern
visited.
day.
In those 27 years, he never visited.
Wow.
He never went to go see them. And they died.
Damn.
They died. Not being
Unresolved.
able to.
No
but
closure,
at
no
least now
nothing.
they've opened up his gravesite, so you have
People
people
can
that
go
visit
visit.
now.
I
You
hope they
have
make
the
a-
kids. They call them the children of Sankara, like the kids, because these were kids that he hung out with. He would dance with the market women. He would try to get women. He would try to invest in
Sound
them
like a
and
good
have them come out.
person.
Yeah, he
Well,
was
crazy,
he was a
little
man
radical,
of the, he was a man
but-
of the people, very charismatic. Their videos online, man, you see he was in there. He was with the people. He wanted to empower them, and just like every other just like every other country in Africa, man, they gutted him down.
Have you noticed the trend with Africa?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Every
but
time you're making progress and empowering the people.
you know,
They
did I tell
kill
you
you.
he changed the name
Or
of
they
the
kill
country?
you.
You know, he changed the name of the country after he came back into office. It was Upper Volta before.
Yeah.
He changed it to Burkina
Burkina
Faso.
Faso.
You know what that means?
What?
Land of the upright man.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Too bad they ain't
it was just
upright.
all about
The
just a
people that
stand-up
killed
dude,
him.
man. It was a stand-up dude. Let me read out some of his famous quotes. Our revolution in Burkina Faso draws on the totality of man's experiences since the first breath of humanity. We wish to be the heirs of all the revolutions of the world, of all the liberation struggles of the peoples of the Third World. We draw the lessons of the American Revolution. The French Revolution taught us the rights of man. The Great October Revolution brought victory to the proletariat and made possible the realization of the Paris Commune's dream of justice. Thomas Sankara, October 1984. Another one of his quotes: "Our country," this was in terms of self-sufficiency, "our country produces enough to feed us all. Alas, for lack of organization, we are forced to beg for food aid. It's this aid that instills in our spirits the attitude of beggars."
Yeah, look at Nigeria. How are we importing rice? Like, that makes no
don't understand.
sense.
Like, it's
like rice. And even oil. Like, anyway, Africa in general, man. It's like we're all plagued with the same disease. All of us. Well, there's a few exceptions, but
Yeah.
we're all plagued with the same problems.
In terms of women's rights, the revolution and women's liberation go together. We do not talk of women's emancipation as an act of charity or because of a surge of human compassion. It is a basic necessity for
Yeah.
the triumph of the revolution. Women hold up the other half of the sky. Thomas Sankara.
He ain't lying. Too bad he was killed before his time, Sham.
Yeah.
Damn.
Too bad.
That's sad.
Yeah,
So
but that's,
where's what the other dude now? Compaore.
He's still locked up right now.
He's
they're gonna
locked
try,
up?
Yeah. I believe
Oh,
they're
finally! So he's gonna pay for.
Yeah, they're gonna
crimes.
try him. They're
Probably
gonna try him
not.
for
Though.
crimes.
Watch, we'll see.
We'll see.
I'll actually follow this story.
Yeah.
He's probably not gonna get any time. He's probably not gonna get anything.
Probably not.
I wonder if he's. Are you sure he's actually locked up or he's in some kind of exile kind
he
of
might
thing?
be in exile.
'Cause you know how
I didn't really look in because I was watching the video. I've watched that video on YouTube so many times. Yesterday, after watching, I was so pissed off. Every time I'm pissed off, I'm like, this guy.
But
You know what I'm saying? He's the Brutus to
Yeah, he's Brutus
you know what I'm
to
saying?
Julius Caesar, and he's the Judas to. Well, I won't call King Jesus, but
No,
he's a
exactly.
He's a Judas.
He's a Judas. He's a Judas.
Jeez,
Now
that's
that day is the villain.
Yeah, I mean,
That
right,
is the Thomas
right.
Sankara is
So
the hero,
and
Blaise
Compaore
is the villain as far as I'm
villain.
concerned.
Jeez, that's
Yeah.
so messed up.
Yeah, but that's our program for today. Do you guys want to add anything else?
No.
I know you have you're taking us out, right?
Beyonce.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I was gonna.
Yeah, you sure the concert is today? Because everybody on my snap has been posting yesterday.
There were 2 concerts.
Okay,
The 2
Just
dates.
check your ticket.
Yeah,
Really?
two
No. That would not be funny. It's today. It's 7:30 p.m. But yeah, so I was gonna actually pick a Beyonce song as an outro, but I won't do that to y'all. Don't look at me like that. So we're gonna do Jogodo by who's it by? What's his name? Techno. Yes.
All right. Well,
I
thanks
can
for
go.
listening, guys. Don't forget, please add us on Instagram, Twitter, the smiling_sufferer on Instagram. On Twitter, we're at Smiling Pod. You can also add us on YouTube. Just search for Smiling Sufferer. Subscribe to our page. Subscribe to us. We're also on Apple iTunes podcast app. Just search Smiling Sufferer.
Anywhere you can stalk your exes. we're
Pretty
on.
much. Anyway, you can. We should tag that line. Anyway, you can.
I
stalk
actually
your
stole that
exes.
from somebody else.
You
but
did? Damn it.
Yeah, from Jaden XD.
Damn it. Even on Facebook, we're on Facebook.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
please follow
Everywhere.
us. Like our videos. Please give your input. Correct us when we're saying something wrong. Check us. Whatever. We're
want
all here.
feedback.
We're all here to learn.
Educate each other.
All right.